Good morning, everybody. Today we shall be talking about the topic that is related to tests and evaluative measures. To concentrate on testing, testing is a way to review what students have learned and to train their abilities of putting what they have learned into effect and to help them learn more either individually or from classroom teaching. The tests aim to find out whether the objectives are accomplished by testing the content of the course. Some opinions about language testing is that Davies argued that the good test is an obedient servant since it follows and aids the teaching. Pitt Corder is of the view that language tests are measuring instruments and they are applied to learners, not to the teaching materials or teachers. For this reason, they do not tell us directly about the contribution of the teacher or the materials to the learning process. They are designed to measure the learner's knowledge of or competence in the language at particular movement in his course and nothing else. The knowledge of one pupil may be compared with the knowledge of others or with that of same pupil at a different time or with some standard or norm as in the case of height or weight or temperature, etc. According to Halliday and et al., tests are an attempt to construct an instrument for measuring attainment or progress or ability in language skills. There is a difference in tests and evaluation. It's a sort of measurement whereupon you have an input that is given to the student in the form of classroom teaching, or maybe notes, or maybe organizing seminars, presentations, etc., which all become the process of teaching. The input is processed through the classroom activities and are given to them. The expected output is the output that has been given at the end of the course, the course outcome. But the actual output could be same as expected output or something different. Depending upon the tests and the evaluative measures that we undertake after the process of giving the input to the students is complete, we understand what exactly is the actual output, whether it is closer to the expected output or not. So this actual output that we get by means of testing and evaluative measures exactly becomes the feedback, not only to the input that is provided, but also to the process that we adopt in the classroom teaching. So we have the input in the form of textbook or syllabus document or course that is prescribed, and all this that is prescribed in the syllabus are taught to the students in the process of the classroom teaching. And now if you observe, it is the online teaching. So through the online teaching or the classroom teaching, which become the process of teaching, you have the expected outcome which is already printed in the syllabus document as the program outcome. By putting the tests and evaluation and testing the students, we actually understand what they have understood, and that becomes the actual output, which is a sort of feedback for us in order to understand whether the expected outcome is achieved or whether the syllabus document is to be changed to get the output, or maybe the processes that we follow in the classroom are to be changed to get the expected output. The very purpose of testing is to monitor the students' progress in learning. It is also helpful to promote learning and help the teachers in selecting suitable methods and materials. Proper testing is helpful for us to assess effectiveness of classroom practices. They are also helpful for us to assess the instructional goal and identify the strengths and weaknesses of the learners. Proper testing will give us the scores or grades and thereby, in one way, motivate the students to do better. With the help of the test results, the teacher will be understanding the self-assessment as to whether the teaching is up to the mark or no. The student also will be self-assessing whether his expectation is up to the mark or no. It is also helpful to know the efficacy of the tests. There is a difference between testing and evaluation. Tests are that they provide a situation or a series of situations in the form of questions, items to the students to perform in a particular way to demonstrate their abilities. Say, for example, the testing their intelligence, their aptitude, their achievements, etc. Like in our classroom situations in schools and colleges, we have been acquainted with the slip tests, unit tests, semester examination, final examination. Many a times we also give the tests like diagnostic tests, aptitude tests, etc. If we look at the type of tests that we have, the test could be of various types, which could be like it is based upon um, their criterion of administration. There are different types of tests, each with a specific purpose and a particular criterion to be measured. The number one type of test that we have is the proficiency test. The proficiency test will not have any syllabus. It is a sort of test which measures how much a language a person knows or has learned. It is not bound to any curriculum or syllabus, but is intended to check the learner's language competence. It is also not intended to be limited to any one course or curriculum or single skill in the language. Instead, it is designed to tap global competence of any language. Say, for example, the examination or the test that is organized called as TOEFL, testing of English as foreign language, that you require as a pass out for going to America, or the test called IELTS test that you require to pass to go to United Kingdom. The second type of test is called as the achievement test. An achievement test is a test which measures a language someone has learned during a specific course, study, or program. According to Jacobs and Chase, an achievement test is a systematic procedure for measuring students' achievement in the classroom. This kind of tests is mainly given at different definite times at the school year. Moreover, they could be extremely crucial for the students, for they are intended either to make the students pass or fail in the test. We basically use an achievement test at the end of the course to check the acquisition of the material covered during the study year. An achievement test, which is also referred to as an attainment test, is a test designed to measure the extent of learning achieved by a candidate in relation to a particular course of instruction, textbook, etc. That is, a curriculum dependent test it is. So, the term end examination, the semester end examination, the year end examinations that you take are the achievement tests or the attainment tests. The third type of test is what is called as the aptitude test. An aptitude test is a test given to a person prior to any exposure to a second language, which predicts a person's future success. It is designed to measure a person's capacity or general ability to learn a language. It tests whether an individual is interested in learning that language or learning that subject or no. The aptitude test is tests the inborn or acquired quality to do something. So it could be something like sound system of a language, general mathematics, associated with figures or shapes, or interest in science subjects, or maybe mathematics or social sciences, interest in philosophy, interest in languages and literature, etc. So the aptitude test is a test that is taken prior to take admission into some subject. The next is what is called as the diagnostic test. A diagnostic test is a test that is meant to display what the students know and what he or she does not know. Underhill adds that a diagnostic test provides the student with a variety of language elements which will help the teacher to determine what the student knows or does not know. Very often, the teachers do not put any marks for the diagnostic test and sometimes even do not show the test to the learners if the students do not ask the teacher to return it. It is designed to diagnose a particular aspect of particular language and see which aspect poses difficulty for a learner. Hughes adds that the diagnostic tests are supposed to spot the student's weak and strong points. A diagnostic test distinguishes between fast and slow learners and thereafter offer remedial lessons to each. The next type of test is what is called as a placement test. A placement test is a test that places the students at an appropriate level in a program or a course. According to Hughes, this type of test is also used to decide which group or class the learner could be joined to. Heaton describes that the placement test should deal exactly with the language skills relevant to those that will be taught during a particular course. Some views were expressed by another scholar, such as Alderson, who declares that a placement tests are meant for showing the teacher the student's level of the language ability. It will assist to put the student exactly in that group that responds his or her true abilities. So the placement tests help to identify variation in students and their abilities, like UGC 6th pay. Depending upon the rules and regulations that UGC has made, if a teacher fits into this, he goes into the placement test and be placed further. Accordingly, his promotions would depend upon. For going to Singapore, a placement test could be there. For going to London, as we said, England, IEL test is a placement test. USA, TOEFL is a placement test, and so on and so forth. Apart from the types of tests, now we move down to the criteria of a good test. When we look at the criteria of the good test, the very first criteria is what is called as the validity. A test is valid when it measures what it sets out to measure. Validity means the degree to which the test actually measures what it is intended to measure. It possesses content validity, criterion validity, and construct validity. A test is said to have content validity if its content constitutes a representative sample of the language skill, structures, etc., with which it means to be concerned. Criterion validity is to see how far results on the test agree with those provided by some independent and highly dependable assessment of the candidate's ability. A test part of a test or a testing technique is said to have construct validity if it can demonstrate and measure the ability that is supposed to measure. If these three criteria are carefully met, a test should be administrable and measure what it is intended to measure. So, the content validity concerns what goes into the test. The content of a test is decided after deciding what is to be assessed. And the face validity is what the learners and teachers think about the test. A test should look like a test. Tests which use indirect ways of measuring abilities have a high rejection because of the face validity. The next important thing is the reliability of the test. If test scores are consistent when a group takes the test on 2 different days or 2 different persons assess the test, then the test is reliable. It refers to the stability or consistency of test scores. A test is considered reliable if its scores remain constant and dependable when given at different times to the same objects. Sources of unreliability may lie in the test itself or in the scoring of the test, known respectively as test reliability or rate reliability. Generally speaking, the more samples of student test performance that one takes, the more reliable the assessment or their knowledge and ability will be. So accordingly, the reliability can be test or retest reliability, which means the test scores are consistent when a group takes the test on 2 different days. It is called as reassess reliability if 2 different persons assess the same test and find the scores to be almost the same. Sometimes the split half reliability also could be a type of reliability, which means split the test into 2 halves and the assessment by one half is done by one examiner and the other half is done by the other examiners. So 2 different examiners split the test and assess it and find out the reliability of it. The instrument used to measure a person's ability should be so constructed that it is absolutely reliable. The third criteria of a good test is practicability. This is the administrative aspect of testing. It deals with the questions like how long will the test take place? Will the test cost too much to produce? Can it be easily printed or copied for the learners? Will the test require equipment like the tape recorder or computer? The possibility of malpractice, etc. A well constructed test should use various versions of the same paper and other means to reduce the malpractice. The fourth criteria of a good test is comparison and discrimination. A good test should enable one to compare one learner with the others and or the learner's earlier performance. The scores obtained by learners should also discriminate between slow learner, medium learner and high learners. Or the score also should be in a position to give a comparison as to how the same student scored in the beginning of the academic year, in the middle of the academic year, and how he progressed in the later part. Sometimes, if the students decrease their scores in the later part, they require some additional counseling by the teacher. Providing question banks to the students and then take the tests will definitely help them to have comparison and discrimination in an effective way. Test construction is the next important part to be discussed under tests. Before a test is constructed, the following points have to be noted. What kind of test is this? Whether it is achievement test, diagnostic test, proficiency test, or placement test. What should it measure is the second question. Are we intending to measure listening, speaking, reading, and writing abilities of the learners? Or is the test constructed to test grammar items, phonetics, integrated skills, and accordingly the test should be constructed? Sometimes it could be summarizing skill, sometimes it could be note making skill or note taking skill. Accordingly, the test is to be conducted. Sometimes it could be the sub skills like scanning or skimming or note making, note taking, summarizing, graph reading, etc. etc. Accordingly, the test is to be conducted. So, the third important element in test construction is what sub skills or abilities should it measure. The fourth important point of the test construction is what are the administrative constraints. What exactly is the cost of the printing? Sometimes to conduct the objective test, each test book requires some 4 pages or 6 pages or 8 pages because it is objective type, and the students complete the test in just 1 hour. So what exactly is the cost of printing? If supposing we have say 150 students in a compulsory English class and an objective test with 8 papers are to be constructed, imagine the cost. That is one of the reasons why the subjective type of questions, which could be accommodated in just 1 page, have come into existence. But sometimes the objective type of questions are to be asked, which would be the demand of the topic, demand of the situation also. Like in this COVID pandemic situation, it is the objective testing that we are doing in spite of the cost, in spite of the fact that the cost of the printing is more. Then the other administrative constraint could be time available for correction and so on and so forth. So all these points are to be borne in mind while we are constructing the test. There could be a number of testing items. So depending upon the type of test that we are conducting, essentially there are two basic types of testing items. One is objective type, the other is subjective type. I think you are acquainted with both the types of questions by this time. The objective type of questions will test the smaller part of uh, in this type of test, the students are presented with a question or an incomplete sentences or idea. The students are expected to choose the correct or best answer or completion from a menu of alternatives and so on. The advantages of this type of questions is that the scoring procedure is completely specified, enabling agreement among different scorers. It means that the administrators of the test can make answer key in advance and the correct answer must be the same with the one in the answer key. Now, this includes multiple choice type of items which you are already acquainted with. Fill in the blanks with some suggestions, some examples given to you, true or false type of questions, right or wrong type of questions, gap filling items. Look into the paragraph that is given to you and then fill up the gap. Information transfer items, matching items, and completion items. The multiple choice true or false questions, matching, constant alternative type, rearrangement type of questions, yes no type of questions, fill in the blank type of questions are quite difficult to construct, especially for the higher classes in subjects like languages. But these definitely help to have a single answer and would have an objective type of answering and an objective type of marking also. The second type of tests that we have are called as the subjective type of tests. The subjective type of tests require students to answer questions in writing. Responses can be brief or extensive depending upon the questions that we have included. These tests aim to test for recall, ability to apply knowledge of a subject to questions about the subject, rather than ability to choose the least incorrect answer from a menu of options. In these tests, the impression or opinion of the examiner determines the score or evaluation of performance. These tests include short answer type, long answer type, and problem solving type associated with competence. Essays, essay writings, comments, etc. on a given topic. Both the test items have advantages as well as disadvantages. A good test should have a combination of both objective as well as subjective type of items. For the biggest advantage of objective type of testing is that the testing can be done immediately and the results would be out immediately. But the disadvantage with it is there could be an element of copying into it. The advantage of subjective type of writing is subjective type of tests is that it gives a chance for the teacher to test the expression of the speaker, expression of the student. Because it is the short answers that he would be writing or paragraph type or essays that he would be writing. This gives a chance to the examiner to test the linguistic skills and the expressive skills of the student. But the disadvantage of it is that the marking system of it could be very subjective depending upon the person who is assessing the paper. That is the reason why we get discrepancies. An ideal test is that which could have a combination of both objective as well as subjective type, as we used to have for NET and SET examination or UPSC and PSC examinations earlier. When I had given the SET or NET examination, it was 100 marks of or 200 marks of objective type of tests and 200 marks of subjective type of questions that were asked. Nowadays, but both SETNET as well as UPSC and PSC examinations have become highly objective because of the only advantage of interpreting the test results immediately and in a very objective way. So these are the types of tests, criteria of a good test, and the types of objective as well as subjective type of examinations and tests. Thank you very much for being a part of this video. Bye for now and stay tuned for the next videos.